Welcome everyone to this talk on endurance riding. I have Krishna and Deep with me. So let me start off by introducing both of them. Short introduction, they can further add to themselves. To start with Krishna, he has been riding from a very long time. I believe he has been riding mountain bikes here from school days. He also loves riding his motorcycle, and he had a lot of fun in there, fun and crashes. And he has been into endurance riding also for quite a while. I know him as one of the first riders who was riding a road bike in Hyderabad and using cleats. So he had done his started riding breves even in US before he came to India. He has done the Alpi 4000 before this. He has also attempted LEL and PBP, and this year he completed the Northcape 4000. So that is Krishna. Coming to Deep, Krishna is a software entrepreneur. His business and personal life. He's a father of 2 kids, a family and family. Deep is also a techie. He works with Microsoft. He also has a young family. In fact, he became his second child was just born a few months before the LEL this year. So he has been riding brevets for a long time. He has completed 600s and he has been a super engineer. This year he completed the LEL, and he had a very difficult year leading up to the LEL. Quite a lot of things didn't go as per plan. In fact, last year he was diagnosed with a blood clot in his brain and had to undergo a surgery to remove that clot, to open skull surgery. Then this year also his time training on the bike was severely restricted because of the newborn. And just a few weeks before the ride, he was down with COVID as well. So he has had his fair bit of challenges, but still he overcame everything and completed the LEL. Thank you for being here, and I also had the pleasure of training both of them in this journey. Thank you both for being here. So please do add anything if I have missed, and also why don't you start with introducing the rides that you guys did or came and talk a little bit.
Well, you start with you. So tough. Thank you, Gokul, and I really thank you for having me here. Talking about the ride, the 1540 kilometers, London Edinburgh London. It was a ride which was in my to-do list. And this was the year where, after COVID, we were at home for 2.5 years. So this was an opportunity for me to go out and tick mark the to-do item for me. So that was really the ride was good. There was a lot of experiences. I think we'll share on coming conversations which we have. There was a lot of challenge, in person for me. Handling my newborn baby, the brain surgery which I had, and not many other challenges which came around because of COVID, because of other family issues. But overall, it was a very nice experience. The 5 days of life which I've added to my life experience, I think it is something which I will always cherish.
And I hope you cherish the training before the test.
Yes, I hope there will be a question of training. I answer it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Gokul. This is not the first time we've been in a session like this, and it's always good to be here. Why not Cape? After I and Rajesh finished LB, we did have a goal, I think, for a while, and then somehow not Cape came up on that list. And Back then it was a little longer, 4,300 kilometers. Why not? So that's how it started, and I'm sure when I spoke to you about it, you had the surprise on your face.
Yeah.
Uh, I still, yeah. Other than that, there was no other. And it was originally supposed to be in 2020. Got deferred 2 years thanks to COVID. And form also went through its cycles up and down eventually for this year. About the ride, this year was 3,800 kilometers with a minimum time limit of 10 days. The first year they have a minimum time. The maximum time is about 20 days.
So let's start with people who are interested in pursuing these rides in the future. I know you will not be nice and not tell the truth, so that you should not try these things. So, so can you tell us a little bit about if there is any qualification criteria?
Yeah, I think for LEL, I do not see a specific qualifying criteria, but then I think the biggest qualification required for participating in LEL or any such event is you should have that endurance ability to ride to continue riding for 15 plus kilometers, and you should have that endurance, keep pedaling without having proper sleep. Yeah, I mean that's the qualification which is required right now.
Okay, so there is no need that you have to be a SR or anything.
No, you should be an ODEX member for sure to participate in LEL, but specifically for LEL, there is no specific criteria having that.
So, and is it that like PPP? I know it opens in waves, wherein people who have done 1,000 would get a chance to register earlier than the others, and so on. Does it also open in waves, or is it?
So this was open for everybody, but then the slot of start, right? The time to start was given on a random basis. They had their own algorithms to figure out, what batches would fit in for which riders. Yeah, so that's the only stuff. I don't remember that there is a specific criteria for participation.
What about Northcape?
There was no requirement as such. Anybody was open for everybody to register. But I think all events in Italy like this that start in Italy require a doctor's certificate that says you are fit enough to participate in an event of this.
Oh, okay.
It's a formality, but they ask for a medical certificate, and technically they're supposed to do an ECG, couple of other tests to say you are in good condition to attempt such a.
So that you have to get in
Not here, from anywhere, wherever you are, and send it to them. They will have to approve
So
that.
and this is to be taken about a month before the.
There's a deadline before the month before the event. You have to send one of the certificates. Even when we did ALP, they had this. But it's more of a, I think, keeping them safe rather than keeping the riders.
Yeah. I mean,
The rider is at his rest at any point. That the rider understands the challenge itself.
that's a nice segue. But during our conversations, you said the actual ride there is much safer than what you can imagine. Northcape went through so many countries this year. I think slightly lesser than what the number of countries last year.
Northcape last year was about 13 countries. I think this year they started out with 6, but when the route got finalized, eventually it became 8 countries. We barely touched Switzerland, and then we passed through about 50 kilometers in Czech Republic. But other than those 2 countries, it was Italy, Germany, Austria, Sweden, Finland, and Norway. So the most maximum mileage is probably in Finland, about 1,300 kilometers, and then the next big country is Germany.
Probably you would have seen more reindeers than.
No, I think it's about equal. Now, safety-wise, in general, I think European countries tend to respect cyclists because it's a part of their lifestyle. And I think Germany was, well, Italy we don't even count because we're mostly on a bike lane in Italy. Germany, people were so disciplined that no car would ever overtake you in an unsafe way. They, even if you are very slow, they would wait behind until it was safe to overtake. So, we never, I think we felt more safer riding on those roads than we felt probably would feel. There was never a point where we thought somebody went too close or something. You know, this is you're talking 38 kilometers and you don't have a close call anymore.
I don't think UK is that friendly.
Yeah, UK is okay. I will not say it was not that friendly. What my experience is, the city portion of London and or the city portion of England and the city portion of Scotland, they are pretty good. They would take care of a rider who is there. But the countryside, right, is not that safe. Because there are a lot of farmers. They will have huge, tractors, and they generally do not stop for cyclists or these practice. We had a couple of close calls, but fortunately, we were safe.
Unlike Northcape, I think this year LEL actually increased the distance. So, would this be the longest Audax event?
Yes. So, what we learned when we went for the when we went for the start point was the overall increase, the distance increase is almost around 100. Now, previously it was 14, 18 something, now it's 15. Initially, there was no increase in time. It was 125 hours of straight cutoff for the entire event to finish, but then they added 3 hours and 20 minutes. Now, with 40 kilometers as a distance, yeah, this is the longest Audax event.
I remember having this conversation with Rajesh when we did the Alpi, and I was rounding it off to the lowest 100, and he was like, "No, don't miss that 40 because that was the toughest 40 where they had to climb up Stelvio." So, yeah, I know, and I think it was the same with you also,
Yeah.
right? So, what was your motivation to do something? Kind of covered it, but for example, why did you choose earlier and why did you choose PVP next year or RAM?
I have a different story to share here. The last 2 years of COVID were very difficult for me. I lost my grandmother, then we had COVID, all family members were impacted. Father was not well. Then I had a brain hemorrhage. So when all these things happen, right, you go to a dark room, right, with a lot of negativity, a lot of pressure from family, right. So this was the motivation for me. I wanted to bring myself out from that dark room, so that I personally don't like to be depressed or demotivated. So I wanted to bring myself out. So that was the biggest motivation for me. So that I don't hear somebody saying, "Hey, you had a brain hemorrhage. Don't run 10 kilometers." I didn't wanted that. So that was the real motivation for me to go ahead participate this event. And another item was I did PVP, and it was some unfinished business, right? That. So that was another thing, which pushed me saying, okay, there's some unfinished business. Let me finish this.
So when was this surgery?
It was 7 months before the event.
So I am assuming you were allowed. You must have had about 2 months off.
Yes. So I was in full bed rest for 1.5 months, and I kind of pushed myself to come out of that, that zone. I started slowly walking. I was actually paralyzed at one stage because of that. So, and it was at that moment, it was important for me that I push myself and come out of that to the normal. But then I decided that it is not going to happen with my paying this, so I decided to come back to Hyderabad because this was the place where I can take my own decisions. Yeah, so I started slowly riding indoors, and then I think I approached you for getting trained. I even went to Continental Hospitals, mentioning that this is what I want to do, and this is how I am as a person. I do not want to go to a lazy mode, sitting at home, taking this. So yeah, this is what pushed me to take this.
It's really inspiring. And I think you did not waste time even when you were not able to write, because you were looking at, we started working on a diet plan to lose some of the additional weight you had gained. And I think you lost about 10 kgs in
Yeah.
1 month or so without much activity. So just by diet.
So one thing I understood was weight is going to play an important role. I was 96 kgs when my surgery happened, and I was taking a lot of medicines, not doing any activity. So I think I almost closed around to 80 or 81 before the event. Uh, Thanks to you suggested me the diet plan, the intermittent fasting which we spoke, right? Which we thought we should plan ahead. I think that helped me a lot.
I think that kind of set the rhythm, right? It's you get into that mode of continuing and starting off. Nice. I remember talking to you around the time you had the surgery, and to be honest, if you had told me at that time that you were on the stage, I don't think that I would have been very confident of that. That's a real testament to your.
So there is one more thing which I want to add is it is not possible by one single individual. Right? So I think if I have to give a credit to this, the maximum credit to this is my wife, because she has understood what zone I am in at that phase, and what is that I want to bring, what is that I want to bring myself out. So it was difficult for her because they specifically for wife health. They are very cautious, when we go through some surgeries like this and some life-changing events. Like, and then she was carrying, ensuring that I get up early in the morning, I go for training right, then keeping my son, making him ready, going to school. So I think I'm actually blessed to have a wife like Susan. So that's the backbone for me, to be like this, participate in this event.
Kudos to her.
Motivation. Well, hard for me to describe more specific motivation. I've always loved traveling by bicycle, for many days, and sightseeing in the city on a bicycle on my own. So that's the best way for me to explore any place. And some of these rides give that opportunity to explore. That's the biggest motivation for me. Is be able the experience we've had doing any of these rides, ELP, BPLP, I don't think we would have had them as a tourist, because we would only look at general tourists. This is a whole different. That probably is the biggest motivation. The other one is the challenge itself. Being able to go there and do that. That probably is like, yeah. Other than that, and I'm not into racing. At least
That's what everybody says.
hey, you've known me long enough to understand I'm not.
Changing the things.
Somebody should ride with us, you to understand whether he is into racing or not.
No, I don't. Okay, let's just leave it at that. I'm not into racing. I enjoy the doing at my own pace, being able to explore. And Ravesh, frankly, we had the opportunity traveling everywhere. So that's probably my primary motivation.
You also had a very different challenge, right? Because you were in a very good form around 2020 March, and at that time nobody knew that we'll be shut off for 2 years. So, and we continued the training during that period, and actually I had to hold you back. I think the fact that you could hide in your own office space itself, you were in fact that March, April, May time frame, you were in the best shape of your life, probably far better than what you were when you started the Northcape. So, and obviously you cannot sustain that for a long period and you went through waves. So, was it very demotivating, or how did you overcome the fact that you knew that you were in top shape, and then to get it back, and it is impossible for somebody who's managing work and family to be in that kind of shape for such a long period.
No, I think the shape was only for a short duration. But working with you, being able to define intermittent goals, somewhere along the way, you pushed me to participate in the state levels, and then, thinking of Everesting. There were these intermittent goals that, kept the motivation. The ride being cancelled, given the circumstances, I don't think even if the ride was not cancelled, that we would have been able to go. So there's nothing we could do, just move on, right? But the fitness at some level stayed because of the intermittent goals we had defined trying to get there. So in your comment about racing, that was not my first option. You pushed me there.
Yeah, I mean, those days, while you were saying that I pushed you into Everesting, after going through Everesting, I did not push anybody into Everesting.
No, you didn't push me into Everesting, you pushed me into racing.
So, but we were all in that position, right? I mean, I was in the same position, and I was basically Googling to see how to match the form and doing some event that I could do. So, yeah, we are all in that position. Everesting is in our control, you can choose the date, but you don't choose when Northcape will start. So.
Yeah, and I think Deep and I got lucky in that sense, is that our wives probably ended up understanding what our passions are, what our motivations are, and have given in, because either they understand it or just have given up on us, saying these guys are going to do what they're going to do.
We'll take it offline, whatever life you told to make them understand.
So yeah, just for me, the possibility of exploring.
We will not ask the price of it.
No, I don't mind. I'm open. I don't mind.
Going into LEL, what was your strategy like for the race? And I'm sure you learned from your experiences of the 2019 PVP. So, what was your strategy?
Yeah, so we thought of making a strategy, but then
What do you think?
but then I think for these rides, whatever strategy you make, they straightforward, they don't work. So you have to make a strategy on the go. When you are there on the ride, when you are almost when you have almost crossed 300 kilometers, that is when you have to make sure that you are taking the right decision. So honestly, we didn't make any strategy. I created a small Excel sheet to draft, what can happen positive and what can happen. And we just went ahead and we started riding. There was no specific strategy. Our goal was to be near to 300 kilometers per day. So whether it is 260, 270, does not matter, but it should be near to. That was our straightforward thought process. I had another rider who was riding the so we had the same goal and we just followed it. And we also wanted to make sure that we are taking at least 2.5 or 3 hours of sleep every day. Yeah, that is what we were chasing behind. And I think yes, that became a strategy and that worked for it. Finished the
So since there is no one else, I will jut in and answer the same thing from my perspective as a coach. It was very, in fact, for the both of you, while you did a very similar events, so similar in terms of endurance, but a lot of intricate differences as well. The training approach that I had to come up with, given the circumstances, was completely opposite. So, in the sense that Krishna had more time, and he was building centuries like nobody's business. So, whereas given all the background, you were very clear that you wouldn't have time on the weekdays to ride on the road, and you were primarily focusing on train events. And in many weekends also, the road rides would not happen. So, my strategy was learning from people like Siddharth and the 2019 batch of people. I focused more on increasing your power, and we did that a lot. In fact, whenever I was riding with you, we would go very hard. Even it may look like a traditional approach for somebody who is doing an endurance ride. I'll kill you in the 3.5 hours and go really hard. Whereas Krishna was, he reached points, I think, where his resting heart rate was 38 beats per minute and so on. So exactly opposite. So, but this was the overall thing I had in the back of my mind, long-term planning. But the time when we had to really sit together and plan out the ride, it never happened because you were recovering from COVID and your heart rate had come to normal zones just 10 days, 2 weeks before. So in my discussions with other coaches, we all had this apprehensions about post-COVID cardiac related issues and stuff like that. So it's very particular that you should not push your heart rate close to the COVID, and thankfully it returned to the typical zones. But we didn't really, so the focus was that you are able to start. And it actually came to that. So so while the strategy was there, we couldn't really plan too much tactics, but I think you had innately did the right thing by planning the 2-3 hours of sleep every day. I think that was crucial. About you, Krishna?
I'm a planner. I did a lot of planning.
Good for you.
Like Deep says, nothing goes to plan. So somehow I and Rajesh ended up deciding to stick together. I think from the very beginning, our thought process was that we'll be together. And I was always shooting on the higher side of getting to 260 to 280 per day. Rajesh was more realistic and saying, let's shoot for 200 per day. I think that's enough. And from the beginning, our planning was definitely get 5 to 6 hours sleep per day. This is not a 5-day event. This is like 3 times that. So you need to have a good amount of recovery every day, and sleep is a big part of it. So that was always the criteria around how we were planning. At least 5 to 6 hours of sleep. And when we actually ended up there, I think we were getting more than that in sleep. I think we started out averaging 200 for the first week or so. For a lot of reasons, terrain being one of them. For example, most of the climbing was in the first month, the first quarter, and then towards the end, it flattens out. So the last 2,000 kilometers was probably flatter as compared to the first 1,800 kilometers. So, and then naturally, because it's flatter, you get a little more mileage for the same amount of riding time. I was just actually today, when you did the comparison with 2D and PDF, doing a math on what number of hours we were on the bike. I think we were averaging around 10 hours per day of actual riding time, between 10 and 11. per day of action riding. The distance was between 180. I think the longest day was 320, and that day we were doing like 13 hours. So 13 to 14 hours. But that looked like the average riding.
In fact, we are accommodated for a rest day, which we never took.
Remember, I stayed my plan, but
No, I mean, at least in the initial days, because uh, one big challenge for Northcape is, thankfully for LEL and PVP, we were able to learn from our own mistakes and from what worked, seeing people whom we know, with whom we could talk. But Northcape was a very different beast. We didn't know a single soul who had actually done it, and we had to go with theories and see if those theories work. So one of those, the earliest days, probably the 2020 times, I think we had planned for a rest day.
yeah, I frankly don't remember back then if we did. But before we left, I think all my plans were around doing 250 to 280 per day. Uh, Initially, that was harder. I think if we had pushed ourselves, we probably could have done the 250. But then the result probably could have hit us later when we went too hard in the beginning. I know it was interesting that just before I left, you had made the comment that I don't think you would do the mistake of starting slow, and I did exactly that where we started slow.
I don't think that's a mistake. It's a good thing.
But even, I mean, on a ride like this where you have to sustain the same thing for 15, 16 days, starting easy, I think, helped being able to sustain and, understand your strength and be able to translate that down. So we're discovering ourselves each day on some of the.
So would you say you overtook more people than the other way around towards the second half of the ride?
Oh, definitely. So I was passing more people.
I mean,
And not necessarily passing them, you need them on and off, but I did definitely pass a lot more people.
so yeah, let's go to the meat of the ride itself. Can you both tell us about the actual, even if you want to do it on a day by day or a region by region breakup, what went well, what you enjoyed the most, and what didn't work well, or some of the challenges you faced? Don't worry, I asked many questions, but I prompt you.
So I think it was a great ride, riding from London, going to the countrysides of England, and then going to the countrysides of Scotland. It's loud. It's loud. Loud. The best thing was there was no rain. That is the best thing which
England and no rain.
Yes. And climate wise, what was worse was it was too hot on last 2 days. It was actually Hyderabad for last 2 days. Overall, I think we did a lot of planning. We would go for almost 300 kilometers every day, which fortunately or unfortunately didn't happen. The sleep pattern, which we thought that we would take, we would sleep after 12 p.m. every day and till morning 3. That also didn't work. Because we thought we will pace up 25 to 28 kilometers is what I was talking initially, but that didn't work out. So I think that planning or that stuff which we had in thought didn't work for the ride. Other thing which didn't work for us was the clothing part. We actually made strategy that whenever we are riding for the day, we will wear the normal summer clothes, and then when the ride is in the night time, because at Scotland it is little chilly at night, so we had that thought that we will wear warmers and full jerseys. But I think we messed up there. I personally messed up there, so I was wearing just the opposite. Daytime I was with warm clothes. Nighttime I was with half jersey and shorts. So that was a big miss that which I did.
So whenever you stopped and started in the night, it would have been very difficult.
It was not that difficult for me because I come up from a cold region. So it was okay because there was no rain So fortunately, he was okay for me. Food was another challenge. I was able to eat for first 2 days, but then the same repetitive food, same bread, same butter, same green peas, it was little challenging for me. Uh,
So were you not getting Indian food?
there were some checkpoints where we had Indian food, but it was not really Indian. No, we do not have spices there. It's just a boiled.
You did listen to my idea.
Yes. By the way, I took the pickle.
You did, but you didn't use it.
I used it on some. Other thing
So
which
pickle the kale.
yeah.
He doesn't pickle.
Other thing which went well was I was taking a lot of BCA and some protein powder which I was taking. So I think that worked well for me in as a person thing. So whenever I was going to sleep, before sleep I was making sure that I'm taking one shake of protein, and during the ride, before the ride I was taking the BCA, the small chest which I created for myself. I think that really worked well. I never had the fatigue in my body. Fatigue, I mean, say no cramps, your muscles are not giving up. I never had that feeling for the entire.
That's quite an achievement. Tell us about the late night phone call and your missed marathon.
The marathon that you missed.
Yeah, okay. Last 50 kilometers were very interesting for me, and I think yeah, you rightly said it was a marathon.
Yeah, actually, kilometers.
Yeah. So just before the last checkpoint, Boston, right? So my bike had issues. The front derailleur and the rear derailleur stopped shifting. My DIT gave up. My first thought was I think charging was not there. I tried my level best to see whether charging is issue. I even opened the hood. I even opened the junction box, which does the charging, right? And nothing was working. So my initial thought was I will start continue riding on it, because I was on the bigger chain ring in the front and the smallest one on the or the third smallest one on the rear. Yeah, I then when I started from Boston, I suddenly realized why it's not going to work. Because there were 4%, 8% variant clients coming back. Then my partner, he had to go. I cannot hold him back. I said, you move on, because it was an event where he had to finish, right? And I was alone, so I thought, what is that I should be doing? I was little in a panic mode, right? What happened and what is that I should be doing? So I think I took some time. I calmed myself and thought of, what is that I can do right now? So the thought came to me is, let me remove my shoes, take my bike and run for 46 kilometers was left. So run for 46 kilometers, and the reason for that thought was I still had 4 hours.
4 hours for 46.
So I not sure, right? I wanted to give my best attempt, whether I do or not. Yeah. Then I did that for some time. I think 1.5 kilometers I was running. And people
1.5 kilometers you ran?
Yeah, I ran. Okay. And then a lot of people started asking me, what is that? What happened? Why are you running?
We told them it's 2 years challenging.
Yeah, you're right. But then suddenly I thought, let me, give a phone call to Siddharth. I called him up and I said, this is what it is. And lifting is not working. It's still evening time. And I think he...
11.
For me, it was evening, okay? Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a group or a community like this, right, who can help at these odd times. Right? And he pulled in Salinder. He just came online. We had a video call. I showed him at what state I was in, and then they gave me a workaround. And fortunately that workaround worked for me. Right? My front was still the bigger chaining, but I was able to manage, to bring down my rear cox to I think fifth or sixth one. I don't remember correctly, but I was able to bring it down with the help of the limit screw, and I used the zip tie which I was using to keep my derailleur at one place. But still, it was difficult, and I don't know what happened, what kicked me in. I was riding climbs of 4%, 5%, 8%. And people were looking at me, what's this guy doing? And I was not believing myself also, how I was doing that. Because there was a lot of, tiredness after 1400 kilometers, 1500 kilometers. Your body kind of, slows down. But yeah, it worked. I took a sachet of C4. C4, yeah.
What is C4?
C4 is, pre-workout. It kicks your adrenaline and I think it boosts you up.
Probably caffeine and.
Yeah, it kept me going, and I was at the finish point. Somebody took my bike and said, "Congratulations, you have finished." I said, "Okay, thank you so much." So, I think 1 hour 40 minutes is.
She basically took drugs at the end.
It is not drugs. It is an official
Legal.
legal
Dope test also.
Support also he has taken from Chennai.
So it's a legal stuff.
DI2 became DIY.
But yeah, I mean, I was really happy, because of the community which we have, the support which I get from TVA as such, right? It really helps you on these odd times. You feel better, right, as a person when you are in a society. It gives you a different feeling that you have people around.
So, I know it's all easy to talk about it now and thank Veteran Siddha, but it is very easy to give up at that time, right? I mean, you are done. You could say to yourself, okay, I've done 1490 kilometers. My shifting is not working. It's okay, I will leave it. I'll take a cab. So, what was the mindset? How did you not take that easy path? I mean, it's easy to say now, but I'm sure you were considering that at that time. Right?
Yes. So I think I said, right, I want to bring myself out from that. Stop people questioning, my ability to do an activity. That was one thought which, pushed me up. Another thought is you take it little light, but then when you gave up the jersey of TBA, right, I wanted to live up to that jersey, which I got. So that was another thought. Third thing was I wanted to do this for my wife specifically because she did a lot of hard work and she sacrificed a lot for for me to go to this event. Third one was you. I didn't want you to let you down because there was a lot of effort. Again I said it is not one individual. It is community and people around who make you or who encourage you to participate and finish these. So yeah, this is all what pushed me to bring that negative thought of let me stop and take a cab. Taking a cab was easy, but I don't know, somehow it didn't take me in. That thought didn't.
I know I don't think many people would. I've seen so many earlier days 600 and all people giving up at the very last moment. 10-15 kilometers because typically 10-15 kilometers you are entering the city and that is where typically people get lost. So I've seen so many people missing the timeline in that last 10-15 kilometers. They are circling around doing 30 kilometers but not making that time. So that's up to you. So Krishna,
What was the question?
I will remember. So I wanted you to walk us through the ride itself, probably break it down into segments, what you like, what you didn't like, what worked, what didn't work, what are the biggest challenges, how will you overcome them, and so on.
I'm a blank slate. I think overall it was probably way smoother than I had imagined. In a good.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that because from the time you have come, you have been saying that, you know, but last week when we did the half, you were saying half was much tougher than that.
I think psychologically I was prepared for much worse, and that probably helped me in looking at each day as like, you know, it's a big day. We finished well. We finished strong. That's one part of it. The second part of it, the organizers did help us indirectly in breaking down the ride, which was 3,800 into 9 different segments, and each one was somewhere between 300. And that helps us set goals. You know, let's finish this segment and then we can worry about the next, right? So somehow it was broken down into enough pieces that I don't think at any point during the ride we thought of it as 3,800 kilometers. I think we were constantly looking at it as, let's get to the, you know, get through this segment first, or let's get to the gate first, because there are 4 gates, right? And that's the way we were always looking at it. And you know, breaking down a day. I remember, I think somebody was making fun of me, maybe I was Al, towards the end, was the day I break it down into by around noon, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I should have finished 100. By about 6 or 7 in the evening, I had finished 200. And then, you know, the rest after that. So there was these constant intermittent goals that kept us focused. And, you know, the interesting thing was every day I had pain. But nothing that was serious enough to say, you know what, I'm in pain. It was some kind of a niggle every day. But the funny part is, every day it was a different one. So one day if it was the right, the next would be left. One day my shoulders were sore. One day my elbow was sore. The last towards the end, even my palm was sore. But again, there was no point where I felt that the pain was bad, or I had to do something about my pain. It's just a niggle, and then next day it disappeared. I think it also goes back to all that miles we put in before the event, making sure that we could recover and come back next day. And the big part was being able to sleep every night. Funnily, we didn't have sleeping bags, and on day one, after starting the ride, 30 kilometers from the start, I and Rajesh went into a town and bought sleeping bags.
2 years and you didn't get time to buy sleeping bags.
That's the joke, right? We ended up spending an hour. Somebody already booked a sleeping bag. We just had to go pick them up, and we spent an hour.
But it was a detour.
It was a short detour, right? But it spent an hour to pick those up and come back to the road again, and which I didn't use. I carried a sleeping bag for 3,800 kilometers and I didn't use.
But that was good. I mean,
Yeah.
That means that you were having better rest than what you planned for.
Yeah, we sleeping in hotels every night. I think it was only one night I actually spent in an Airbnb, and we had ample time to, finish the ride by 8 to 10, somewhere in that range. Get your dinner, get rest, and then get back up the next morning and have breakfast and then leave. So every day was the same pattern, hour off. But that also, it being a process, right? You have the same process that you go over, helps a lot. And having a fixed amount of rest that you for sure recover for the next day. I think I can't look back and say this was a hard day, I struggled. And I like I said in the beginning, it went way smoother than I was expecting it to be, which tells me that I probably was prepared for much worse. The worst days were actually towards the end, were 2 days of constant rain. We rode to under 10 degrees temperature, and it was probably raining all through the day. We could stop, we get completely wet. And I don't do well in rain and cold conditions. I was worried about that, but even on that day, I think recovered well. I was panicking towards the end a little, saying, the chill would get in and I would struggle. But I think I recovered well. So those were probably the hardest days or the worst days I've had were riding through rain. Other than that, no significant. Well, there was one that really upset me, and that was Rajesh deciding to not continue. But luckily, I didn't let me bother me because the next day, I just had to catch a ferry, getting to the ferry. The one struggle, if you want to call it that, was that when we reached the ferry, it was over, or sold out basically, and I had to do some. Well, Jugaad, there was a backup plan as well, and the organizer said, "It's your headache, you figure out what you have to do." But luckily, I did get on the ferry.
You didn't swim.
No, I didn't swim. I can't swim for the life of me, so no. The only thing is maybe a lifeboat and tag onto the ferry. No. So I think the preparation probably played a major role in, and we had ample time in preparing for more than 2 years, on and off, but overall it paid off towards the end.
So, you went through 7 countries, 8 countries. So, which parts were the most beautiful and which were the most challenging from the country specifically?
I think challenging, there was one long climb that was really hard in Austria. That was hard.
And I think you were telling me that Austria, you were at 40 degrees.
Yeah, that was the hottest day too. Unfortunately, that was the hottest day, and I think Rajesh's Garmin was showing 46 degrees. I didn't even realize it. We were just going through the climb. Austria was the hardest climb, and because it was so hot, I don't think we could have appreciated any beauty left in Austria at that point. I think Norway was really nice. Probably the most beautiful was the last 300 kilometers.
Probably you were also much more relaxed. You knew it's in the bag.
That could also be the case. Sweden was also very nice. I think probably called the land of lakes. There was a lake everywhere. We would pass a lake so often. Sweden was also very nice. Germany was nice to ride because of the discipline of people. There's always, if there's a car behind you, it will wait until the right moment to overtake you. That was very nice from Germany. Italy, having done, actually, when we did Alpi, we did part of this route in Italy. So there's a little bit of an overlap there, so we knew what to expect. The funny part was the first 100 kilometers is a flat, actual zero climb, complete flat route. And we thought we would fly through this. The moment we start out onto the cycle track, we have a crosswind and a headwind that's throwing us off. So everything that we imagined the first day, went for a great time. Because 100 kilometers are flat, easy section, right? But there was so much wind that if you are not careful, you will be thrown. So there was always something interesting going on. I think in the end, Norway was definitely the most scenic.
I know you have very unique in terms of your dietary habits. You have allergies to fruits and you are a strict vegetarian. So how did you manage food?
Well, strict vegetarian, I eat eggs, so that probably saved me. But what really saved me was a trick you taught me a few months before the event, I think. You asked me to load up on cheese when we were doing the training rides here. I took that to heart, and that's what I was focusing on. Because cheese is very good for me. I like cheese, and I can eat a lot of it. So wherever I could find and add cheese into anything I could eat was big. And typical English breakfast. Everything sweet you can. And now I think I could manage. Now, and also I'm used to spending time in the US and spending time in Europe as well. I'm used to their breakfast, and that breakfast was the repeat of every meal. get bread and cheese and sugar, basically. But that was enough, I think. There were lucky moments where, for example, in Berlin, we stopped at an Indian restaurant, made sure I had enough rice for a few days. In Stockholm, I did the same thing. From the control, there was like literally a block away, there was a Indian restaurant, and I loaded up on Indian food. And there was this magic moment in Sweden where, in the middle of nowhere, I found a Pakistani place. So, got lucky and figure out whatever we can eat, bake it wherever we can eat. I think Norrköping in Sweden, we reached 8 p.m. Everything was closed. There was only one like a grocery store open, and I picked up frozen pasta from there with meat in it. I picked out the meat and just ate the pasta. You gotta survive. I think that's the way you look at it, and as much cheese as you can, nuts, whatever you can find.
But the context, I never thought that cheese would help you in this way, because the context in which we spoke about cheese was we are trying to go carb free in the nights, and that is when I had asked you to use cheese or paneer to, I mean, that also has carbs, but instead of rice or rotis, that was better. So.
No, we spoke about this about the longer rides as well, and you said, try to take cheese with you if you can, and eat some cheese. I don't remember the reasoning behind it, but
yeah, it started off with this, and then I think
that stuck in my head, and that played a big role. I think. Breakfast was standard cereal with a lot of sugar. I would add a lot of sugar in it.
Okay.
And the other big one for everybody in the group that I rode with, the big one was Coke. We would drink at least a liter of Coke a day. At least. Wherever we stopped, we would buy a bottle. So as expensive as it was, we still would a liter of Coke a day. Easy. So that's pure sugar.
We have a couple of questions here.
Well, can you read them up?
So the first question is from Abhishek Sinha. It says what is the qualification criteria to apply for both the events? We also wanted to know the total roundabout expenses for both the events.
It's better you take it. Well,
Are you okay with this?
So I think we kind of did.
You guys are in loop, right?
Yeah, totally. Mine at least. No, we kind of figured it out before even we went there. The flight tickets are what they are. I think now they are close to between 70 and a lakh for around 50 euro. And an average expense, what we estimated per day was about 100 euros to 150 euros, somewhere in that range per day. I think that's what it was. So the number of days multiplied, you do the math. So at least 20 days is what we were thinking of. So given that somewhere up to 2,500 euros is what we were calculating. I think we ended up spending like 3,000 euros.
You want to add the race with the right fee?
The ride fee was 330 euros, paid in 2 years. We paid the initial registration fee, and then when we got it moved a year later, we had to pay something extra. So I think we paid about 330 euros. About 3,000 euros for the trip, and then the flight probably is another 1,000 euros. Assume for a 20-day to a month trip about 5,000. It is expensive.
And you are not including obviously the spent on parts and equipment.
Yeah.
That would have been over a period of.
Yeah, that nothing included on the equipment. I think just servicing and all towards the end, what we paid 25,000. I mean, we changed the cassette, we changed the chain, looking at a lot of new parts, just to make sure that things don't fail at the event.
I mean, like for example, 3,500 kilometers is the life of a tire, of a chain, and so on.
Oh, you said tire, which reminds me, we went tubeless setup, and I was going through a terrain, a rough patch where they had a tree road where they lay this soft, small stones, right? And I was ripping through them, and and it punched a hole in my rear wheel. We kind of tried to fix it, but it didn't work. I ended up changing my tire. That was the only mechanical issue, if any. Uh, I think we were pretty diligent about taking care of the bike after that. Lubing it regularly, making sure, the DIT was functioning correctly.
Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, I think for LEL it's the same expense. Overall, it would be around 4. If I have to overall budget this, 4 lakhs is something where it travel, event fees, staying, accommodation.
The other question they already answered towards the beginning, but I will just recap it quickly. Yeah. Eligibility criteria, there is as such no eligibility criteria. For Northcape, there is a doctor's certificate that is required, and for LEL, there's nothing, right?
The only qualification is you should have that endurance to ride.
You have the craziness to decide.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So there is one more question, this time from Sumant Thaduru. So the question is, how different Northcape was logistically? As you had to move across different countries within few days, how did you manage the entire shift?
Interesting. That did present some challenges, which again, in the whole thing, they felt small. Some countries don't take euro, although all of them are part of that Schengen visa, and I don't need a separate visa. Czech Republic, for example, didn't take euros, but we were using credit cards wherever we can. As much as possible, I think we were using cards. We were minimizing cash. And then once entering Sweden did not take euros, so I actually was at a pizza place. I ordered pizza, finished up, drank as much Coke as I can, and then went up to pay, and he said, "I don't take cards." And the only currency I had was euros and dollars, and he wouldn't take anything. I just didn't pay him. He said, "That's okay, you can go." So people were friendly. He was not upset that I couldn't pay or anything, and he clearly saw that capable of paying. It's just that the circumstances were such that I couldn't, and he just said, it's okay. I ended up paying him after the ride. I had a friend transfer it to him after. But and then again, Finland I think took euros, but they were also big on using their local currency. Norway again, no euros. The challenge was I didn't want to change currency. I wanted to either stick with a card or any place where I can use euros, I use euros. As a thumb rule, that's what we were doing. They almost everywhere cards were accepted. It was just this one-off place in Sweden that we had that trouble, but everywhere else we were able to pay by card. Including toilets, right? Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there were places where we had to pay for facility, but very. Sure, I can expand unless it's on your question somewhere.
Laundry, I did.
Okay, so I was not as disciplined, but I think being with Rajesh in the beginning helped me a lot getting that discipline. We had 2 sets of bib shorts and jerseys with us, and we were wearing one, so in all 3. And I probably washed them every 2 days. We tried to dry them in the room. That wouldn't always work, so you find a hair dryer and try to blow dry them. Primarily, the bib shorts where the padding wouldn't dry up. Most of the other stuff would be to some extent dry, so you could manage. But yes, wash in the hotel's bathrooms and try and dry them. So if somebody came into our room at night, it would be a mess because there's clothes lying everywhere. But that's the only way we could. Towards the end, actually, one of the hotels, I asked them if they had a laundry facility, and they had washing machines that were specific for the hotel, not for guests, but they let me use it time enough. So the last 2 days, I actually had really clean clothes. Planning wise is also harder because we wouldn't know exactly where we stopped every night, and there were areas where it was really dead. There was nothing. I and Rajesh actually had to beg somebody one of the nights in Germany for it was getting too cold. We couldn't really stay outside, and there was nothing around, and there was this one so-called hotel slash restaurant, and he said he had nothing, and we said we just sleep on the floor but inside because we had sleeping bags, and somehow eventually he got convinced and found a room for us. So, but once I think I got into Sweden, started to understand my place better and started to plan better. I also had people around me and understanding their plans. So when some of them booked a room like 40 kilometers away, they would say this is town. So I would instantly book at the same place. So a company as well as a goal. So a lot of people were much more planned. People had the whole journey booked out in advance. So they knew what towns they would stop, hotels booked out there. People were much more planned than we were.
But that was also in some ways a little restricting, right? Because, some days you probably felt that you could do a little longer, but somebody who had booked you said had to stay back at the previous place.
So James Sloan was riding with us. He's an Australian, and his daughter, once we entered Finland, planned out the rest of the trip for him, and somehow decided that these are the towns he's going to stop at, and booked hotels out for him. One day she only gave him 120 because she wanted him to have an easy day, and we were doing 240, so he actually got dropped from the group that day. So that was limiting, booking everything ahead. But a lot of Italians, for example, planned at the rate of 270, 280 per day and booked the whole trip in advance. That's also risky because if you actually can't make it for whatever reason, then everything gets, it's ripples through, right? So there's that risk as well. But not many people can do what we did, I think, is go on the fly, live on the edge, right? A lot of people like that structure. They want to know where they will go. But I think towards the end, it was every day we were booking a day ahead. So knew 240 was feasible the next day because we knew the terrain. We were a small group towards the end, and it was easy to make that decision. Everybody stayed at the same place.
Do you have anything to add on that? Logistics.
No, I think it was easy for us. We didn't have any challenge because LEL is a little more organized and balanced ride for anybody. So we had 2 drop points, and I made sure that I have 2 pair of
The long pair of.
wrong and right pair of clothes there, and I took 4 times bath on that day, right? Which was which shares how good the organization is.
So, in a way, last week we were going for a ride and Sampath refused to go and come back the same way, saying that he doesn't like it, he likes to do loops, and so does Krish. So, LEL 1500 kilometers, almost 750 kilometers, you are going and coming back, similar route, right? Almost the same, tracking back the same route. So, was it a little frustrating at times when you know that you are going down a hill and you know that you have to climb it on the way back?
For some reason, it was not frustrating because while going towards Scotland, we were all climbing. Okay. So we never had a chance to look here and there and see what beauty is around. But fortunately, what happened for us is whatever we were able to ride at the daytime, we on the return leg we were riding the same route on the evening frame or night time, right? So that helped us. I think.
So you ensured that you saw everything.
I don't know whether we saw everything or not because, and 1500 kilometers when your legs are saying legs are DIY, then you have saddle sores, and for me the challenge was I had a shoe bite also.
Oh, okay.
So which was playing its own role, making me enjoy the ride.
Tell us a bit about your bike setup.
White. Well, specialized Rubek with that, what is that?
Future
Shock.
2.0.
No, this is 1.5 actually. But anyways, I don't think it made made a big difference because very good roads. To the extent that I would say even the gravel sections felt like good roads to me. I had a saddlebag, a 17-liter Epidura saddlebag. I had a frame pack, which was another 5-liter, I think. I had a top tube bag, which was a liter, and then I had an aero bag, which was on the aero bars. And I think overall the weight definitely was 15 plus kilos in what all I was carrying. We were carrying spare batteries, lights, I have a crazy list of all of the stuff I was carrying. So, and which will go into what bag and all of that. Looking back at it, maybe we could have lowered the weight. I actually was carrying 4 water. Sadly, I had 2 water bottles and then I had 2 water bottles on. I had this fear of running out of water, and that forced me into the habit of carrying more water. So I have 4 water bottles, and there was never a point where I actually ran out of water during the ride. In fact, there was never a point where I used the 4th bottle. I think 3 was the max I used where I needed to be filled. In fact, towards the end, I think I was getting a little careless because I knew I always had water, I was getting a little careless.
And you also had a aerobar set.
For me, that the aerobar was a big plus on a ride like this. I didn't have any shoulder issues or arm issues, primarily because there were multiple positions for me to spend in, and the aerobars were a big part of one of the positions that I used. Most of the flat sections, as much as possible, I was on the aerobars. Oh, and remember, I had significant risers on the aerobars. I was using 70 mm risers. So they are not meant to be aerobars, they're more meant to be resting bars, as they call them. So it's just one more position to relax your body. But the aerobars would definitely also help in getting a little more space on the flat sections.
Which saddles were you using?
I was using an ISM. Rajesh would know what it is because I borrowed it from him. Yeah, the highest padding that they have.
So which has a split nose.
Split nose. I don't know if that's the best saddle that works for me. Towards the end, I was doubtful if it was worth or not, but because there was a certain point where I would have a little bit of a pain or something. But again, it's nothing that was bothering me. The setup, for what it's worth. I had like the sleeping bag, we bought it then that we added on top of the saddlebag. And I had one of those fender belts for as singles that started rubbing my wheel. Maybe we didn't place it right, or I didn't place it right when we reassembled the bike. And I removed it and set it on the saddlebag and lost it. But from an overall DI2, my challenge was different in that DI2's lifetime on a single charge is about somewhere between 1500 to 2000 kilometers. I think in Sweden I ran out of DI2 the first time and I lost front shifting, and I started charging it from a battery pack and started riding again because it charges on the fly. And then 5 minutes later I had my front shifting. Let it charge to 100%, and then again at 3000 odd I had to charge it again. Its life, I think, and colder weather makes the batteries worse, so I had to charge it twice, but no issue anymore. It charged with shifting or not. Before we left, we actually had a little bit of a niggle with the shifting when we changed the chain and cassette. I ignored it the first day and just rode through with it. I thought it would set it on its own, but it didn't. So the second day, I and Rajesh spent about 10 minutes trying to, the adjustment is easy. So we tried and adjusted it, and once we did that, it got set.
Okay, there is a question for me. How do you compare LDL and PVP? Repeat the question.
Comparing LE and PPP, right? I think they are almost similar, but they have their own set of challenges. PBP as such is mostly on a rolling terrain, and you have to build that mindset of climbing, coming down, climbing and coming down. Whereas LEL is a little different. You have certain flat sections. The initial sections are flat. Then you have climbs which are from which are till 18% gradient. So that makes it little more challenging than LEL. Sorry, PV. So yeah, in a way they both are different rides and they have their own set of challenges. PVP as such, the climate is again a bigger challenge where there are certain areas when you go towards Brest, the temperature falls down drastically. So here we didn't found that challenge.
That also will change every year if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, I've done attempted both, failed at both, but I can say that LEL we are pampered because every control has ample food. PVP are searching for food. I mean, they do have, but you have to buy there and they don't have enough options. LEL was a lot better with food in that perspective. You don't need to search for food anymore.
Tell us about your bike setup.
My bike setup. So I have a Cervelo R5, which is a climbing bike, which definitely helped me up on this event. Initially, I was without aero bars, and then I think we had that discussion that I should be using aero bars. So I did the aero bar setup with whatever setup I had, and I started practicing also. I think 20 or 25 days is what I rode with the aero bars. But bike being a carbon bike, the aero bar clamping is not recommended.
More than carbon like integrated handlebar.
Yeah,
And a carbon handlebar.
carbon handlebar and the integrated handlebar, right, where you have internal cabling and all that. It made it little complicated, and we ended up having a aero bar which was stem mounted. We did that setup, and then before, I think 3 or 4 days before the event, for some reason I thought of opening the aero bars and checking what is the impact. So there was a lot of pressure on the stem, and it got squeezed at one side. And then that was the point which made me worried. I thought I'd change the stem and then fix it on the new stem, but that didn't work out well. And then I decided to go without aero bars, and the ride was without aero bars. But definitely, I think I missed out aero bars because initial 300 kilometers I could have saved at least 2 to 3 hours, and I could have used it for my resting period. And while coming back also, the last 300 kilometers, there was headwind, and the headwind is, it was so strong that you cannot even ride for more than 7 or 8 kilometers per hour. You cannot gain more than that. But I missed out the aero bars there. Item wise, I was little less. I didn't took too much of baggage with me. I had one small saddle bag and one top tube bag. The entire setup would be around 9 kgs, not more than 9 kgs.
So,
I just wanted to add, I don't know, were you looping in between?
Yes,
I was. So for me, a daily ritual was cleaning the chain and moving it. And there was this whole discussion on what to take as a loop between me and Sampath at least. And then he ended up ordering something magic. I don't even know what its name is now. A Markov variant, wet loop variant of some sort. And that worked actually. There were, I've used others as well. Somehow it was all really smooth. I didn't have any issues through the rain or dry weather. But one of the rituals was definitely every day was, during some point in the day, and you made a point of this as well when we were training for it, is that, make it a point at some point during the day, clean your chain, lube it. And it not just me, all the whole team that we ended up riding with towards the end, we were having this process where we would have our own loops. In fact, in Stockholm, when because the control was a bike store, I actually asked them to clean my whole drivetrain, and I had time. So they cleaned the whole drivetrain, but I made it a point to make sure to not lube it because I'm going to use my own. And I gave them mine, and they lubed it with my own. Whatever it was just after the first day, because of the alignment issues, I had noise, but after that I had nothing. It was just as smooth as it can get.
you talk about your daily routine with regards to moving the chain and all. But both of you, when we had a chat post the ride, you said the most important thing was recovering from the past. So, what was your routine every day to recover from the previous days, right?
So a big part of this, there's also saddle sores that we were worried about on a long ride like this. So Rajesh kind of tuned me to the first part, and then I had the second part tuned in. I think every 60 to 80 kilometers, use a chamai cream, and at the end of the day, we somehow ended up with a skin repair gel, different brands, but before sleep, apply the skin repair gel. And I was foolish enough not to carry any shorts with me other than compression pants. I had the 2XU compression pants. I would wear them every night before going to bed. I think that helps quite a bit. The only issue was I couldn't get them beyond 2 hours. I would remove them after 2 hours. I don't know if their intent was to be worn overnight or not, but I think that helped a lot, wearing those compression pants. And then different people have different methodologies. I think Rajesh used to shower every night. I would shower every morning. I wanted to start fresh, and I'm not somebody who had patience to shower twice. So every morning before start, I would have a fresh shower, a fresh set of clothes, and start with those. That was the ritual, I think, you had. Chamai cream every 80 to 100 kilometers. Skin repair gel, end of the ride with compression pants.
So did you have any specific protein or anything you would end the day with?
I did not take anything with me. I did not use any special.
So you were only on regular food.
Water, Coke, and regular food.
What about you?
So I think for me it was pretty straightforward. Fill up on after 50 kilometers if there is a possibility. And every checkpoint, my thought process was fill up yourself half and then take a protein, either a gel or the sachet of proteins which I was taking.
Mm-hmm.
I think every 2 hours I was taking capsules, salt capsules which I was taking. And for every control point or checkpoint where we had baggage, I made sure that I'm sleeping there for 2.5 hours and then taking a bath and then starting again. For me, I think on the training, right, when I was training for this, I was trying this, whether these protein shakes or these protein, the whey protein specific, right, is working for me or not. Whether BCA is working for me or not, or the caffeine which we take, right, generally, whether that is taking or not. I also tested on a lot of gels which we get here, right. So I think protein and BCA worked for me. I was pretty good with Univit gels in specific. That worked for me as part of nutrition and recovery. I also took a TENS massager, which is a small equipment. I think second day or third day, second day mostly, I think my left knee started little pain, so I think that helped me to get that recovered.
So did you also have a stretching routine every day? Yes. Or if you don't tell the right answer, it will be funny.
Yes. So I think we had a stretching routine every day. If we are sleeping and if we are starting fresh, I think what happens is when your muscles are in recovery mode, it was important for us to stretch out, keep your muscles, tell your muscles that wake up when it's time to ride out. So that was really part of our routine.
You also use the massager.
The TENS massager, I think I started using thanks to Shashi. I did not need it by myself, but because we started applying it on one person, I used it for a little while. But that was a definite plus. I think on the third or fourth day, I actually ran a fever towards the end. I took some medicine. Luckily, nothing happened. It's just something that was off. And then the one food that worked for me was I was using gujals. trained with a lot with the Gujals as well, so I'm used to those. But the Gujals were more like an emergency because on a long climb, I was not carrying food. Then I was worried about bonking because it has happened in the past. So the gels were my backup measure on some of the long climbs.
You didn't use the Univert energy.
I didn't have no. I was used to the Gujals, so I stuck with them. I tried the Univert a few times, but because I'm so used to it.
So, can you tell us about how many riders were there, how many actually completed for each of these seasons?
For LEL, I am not sure of the exact numbers, but definitely it was 1200 plus riders across the globe. From there, I think 126 plus riders were Indians.
Oh, so almost 10%.
Yes, and it was a good crowd. These are the numbers which I am aware of. It could be plus or minus. I think what I know today is 36 plus riders have finished they are officially finishers of LEL.
About 25% of Indians, and total overall.
Overall, I am not sure of the numbers yet. I think that numbers have not yet revealed.
I think about 330 registered, 230 started, 175 finished.
The finishing numbers are better and not.
And yeah.
So we are drawing towards the end. Tell us 2 or 3 the most important things that you did in training that helped you with completing this.
I'll go because I have my answer in one. I know clearly what helps.
So I think for me, it was the first time when I was getting trained. I think Gokul, you helped me up. Sampath was part of the training plan. The first thing which helped me was when I was riding in Sampath, pacing along, drafting behind each other. And I think that was the time we were making 30-31 average for 100 kilometers, which was different for me, right? I never used to be at 30 or beyond 30. So that boosted me up to take one more step ahead and then see what reach out to you, get a proper training plan and move ahead. Another thing is diet. I think what we discussed as part of our training plan, that has helped me to reduce my weight, and it definitely impacted my the overall average. Mostly, I think there is a misconception for these endurance rides that speed is not mandatory. But then, what I have experienced is, I'll not say you need to race, but then it plays an important role because it gives you the flexibility, the time flexibility to keep give your body rest. Have that peace of mind, right? Okay, you have 100 kilometers and you have still 10 hours to finish. Right? So that is important. So I think that helped you that mindset. Yeah. So that all came from the training which we planned and which we executed. Yeah. Right.
So you had concerns about climbing and stuff, and we have to an extent to the available resources and time whatever we could work on them. But very satisfied with that. Did that cause you troubles? Because we had significant.
Yeah. So
I think more than 18% meters.
yes. So I think I was happy with whatever training I did, and I think my increase in power actually helped me to make the climbs pretty easier. Definitely, there were very hard climbs on LEL. I think 2 or 3 climbs I had to get out of the bike in middle and then walk up. I mean, I would acknowledge that because it was not possible for me. But then I think I am not afraid of climbs now. I have done if I see my Garmin data, I think I've done 8%, 12%, 14% gradients, and I have done those climbs on my bike. So I'm pretty happy that I was able to climb there. And one more major part is I think I have for this entire area as an event, 1,480 kilometers is what is recorded on my Strava on my Garmin. And I think I'm happy that it was 22 kilometer was my average, overall average for that ride.
including the client.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's all because of the training which we had and what we planned.
Alright, okay. We did the comparison, so I'm going to lay it out between TDF and Northcape.
So you should start with the speed.
Exactly. So my average was 23 for the whole 3800 kilometers. I averaged about 23. I think the TDF folks average about 40. So that balances everything out.
But I mean, you are carrying double the weight.
Yeah.
You are not having bottles handed over to you.
No, yeah. TDF needs a support element, right? You have a team, you have a whole team working for you. This is on your own, find your own food, find your own place to sleep. But back to that question of training, one of my biggest weaknesses was I couldn't draft for the life of me. And I think you and Sampath spent significant time.
Not me, Sampath.
Well, you pushed Sampath, but to get me on drafting, I'm still not good at it, but I think whatever I picked up, huge benefit from it. The second one was being able to do back-to-back long rides, especially doing 300s. I've been to get the 300, the 100, 300, and then 150 on the trainer. Those prepared me psychologically for having that mileage every day. The Madikeri tour that we did was a big confidence booster because I think the second day everybody was struggling and I could still find my way back and I was still in decent shape at the end of the day.
Even despite my allegations.
So I think another big one is Everesting with Sampath or trenching. The fear of climbs is no longer there, I could say that confidently. The shorter climbs, I was attacking them, trying to keep the momentum and get over them. The longer climbs, I knew how to pace myself better. So that fear of climbs is zero now. And together, those three, getting enough saddle time, getting over the climbs, and then knowing that you did benefit from drafting and it's not a bad idea to stick with a team or a group of people and gain from it. Those are the big takeaways, at least for me, from the training time.
So if you had to change one or two things in terms of training leading up to it or something that you did on that day, is there anything that you changed for your prospect?
Oh, mine I know. I think I already talked to a few people about that. I don't think I would change anything. I think everything was there. The only thing, if any, was I would probably try and load my bike and train with a loaded bike earlier than later. I think we did do it, but towards the very tail end. Probably should have done a little sooner to set the expectations of what reality would be. We did try it on Gates of Heaven, but we never went again after that. So that's probably the only thing. But even then, I don't know if it would have done that.
So for me, I think I agree with what Krishna is saying. It actually helps when you train on your bike, the actual setup which you are riding with. For me, I think I would have gained little more hours if I would have made a little more effort on being persistent on the training schedule or the plan because of the newborn baby. I had those challenges to get up early in the morning, go every day on the training. So that's one thing which I retrospect for anything which I do.
I think that pretty much everybody will that's it.
Yeah, that's what I am able to recollect.
And definitely, I think you're given the fact that you had much higher flexibility and and also given the crossfit and headwind scenarios, we had sorted out that aero bars. I think that would have been significant because I think you are one who can go very low on the bike. So yeah, one more question I had was, it's a big challenge, especially for you, Krishna, in terms of tapering for this? Because thankfully you didn't have any major last minute setbacks. Deep had a forced tapering, so as to say. So, did you think that that went well, or would you have changed something, or did you go too low on that? You should have been a little bit fresher?
I don't know. I felt fresh when I landed in Italy. Like, carrying the bike was a mess then, actually everything else. So my resting heart rate was well settled by the time we went there. It was not anything crazy. Even after travel, it settled well by the time we started. So, which is something I track pretty religiously. So I don't know. I think we had enough tapering time. We did do a few rides towards the end, but I don't think
In
we
last
were
10
pushing
days
hard.
we are. And I think this is a very important aspect that everybody to consider, right? How many days before the start of the event did you reach the respective start points?
I was in London 4 days before the event, and I think third is the day when I is there, and seventh was the day when. So I was knowing that it would be a favorable climate for me because of the the degree, the temperature which goes there. So only challenge for me was food. Whether will I get adjusted to the food which is there or not. That was the challenge. But then other than that, I was okay with 4 days of.
Event was on the 23rd. I reached on the 20th. A couple of days early would maybe made it. But the only time, the jet lag time difference is the only thing to account for if you want to add days. Otherwise, I think we were at least 3 days we should have that. Because there's pre-registration events, that you have to pick up. You have to be for those, and then a day to get your bike set up and do a test drive, and a day to relax from the journey itself. The journey is daunting, as much as we don't accept it, it's a long flight. It's a time difference.
Cool. So I have gone through my list of questions. Is there anything else you guys would like to add, or any other questions?
For me, a huge thank you for the TBA team. Working with Gokul, it's a big help for me. I don't think I could have come where I am without all the guidance. I mean, the bike fit from Krish, I would even bug him at very late stages saying something's off, and I don't know what.
And I had to force you so many times not to change any setup.
Yeah, I tend to take those risks, change things at the end, but bringing back that discipline, not to do anything, just having somebody to put some discipline into my training. Given what we do, it's kind of hard to be able to focus on a regular training schedule. Sometimes travel creeps up, sometimes it's family life, there's work, all kinds of different things that keep up. And maintaining a training schedule is hard. Having you guys around, it's always that weekend ride that somebody will invite us, as much as I want to sleep through. So having a community around definitely helps, and having you guys look at me, monitor me, make sure that I'm not losing my fitness. That is a big plus. So thank you to all the people here. All last minute demands of the bicycle being change this, change that, that's not right. And Shailu putting up with all my crap. I called Shailu from Italy saying my seat post cover is missing. And he was right there. He said that there were 3 bikes being unpacked and we didn't realize where it was. It was right there in the pack.
In fact, I was very tense. You guys actually picked up the bike box
On
on
the
the
way
way
to
to
the
the airport.
So, no, but bike was taken care of. First class condition that team here plus stocks.
That depends on the
No, I think I would agree and do a plus one to what Krishna mentioned just now. I think I feel blessed, having TPA as a team, right? Having you as a coach, some put there, giving us the technical stuffs, writing, Siddharth there, boosting people up, right? Uh, and the community as well, because if there is no community, right, you don't get that fun or that hard to ride up, on streets. And if there is no community, you don't get to know all these events also. To be a little honest, otherwise you're lost. So I think this is going great. I hope we do little more on this. There is a small stuff which I say this to everyone, and I said this in my office also. I think whatever passion we have, right, whether it is cycling, running, or anything else like you play cricket or something else, right? I think we all should try to do a little more on our passion stuff. Right? That little more has actually helped me person to move ahead and participate in an event like this or PVT. Much more. Not I not say much more because 4,000 kilometers is benchmark, new benchmark now. So,
Hey, we have national level players among us, riders among us.
Yeah.
That's a big plus, man. That sets a different goal for all of us. Right?
yeah.
Wrong person, probably. I am the wrong person to answer. I ignore the traffic here, I ignore the traffic there. But no, they're more disciplined here, so you're less worried there, definitely. But even here, I tend to ignore traffic. So
I think they have bigger communities when it comes to cycling than our country, right? We are still making up the community across different cities. But if I look at my experience to Paris, ADL, they have a bigger group. They have dedicated cycling lanes, at least for us to. So that actually helps you to settle down mentally and gives you a confidence that you are safe riding those places.
So Krishna is saying that he was also saying that traffic is much more bicycle friendly, especially in places like Germany. So that was a big relief. In fact, that was what came from his wife. That the fact that he was riding in a safer environment gave her a little bit more peace of mind.
yeah, I mean, I was calling my folks every day. And when I was riding through Germany, I was telling them, on the climb, I'm doing somewhere between 5 and 10 kmph. And cars would line up behind me and not honk. And they would wait until it's safe to overtake. That is a huge relief. And when I was telling them that, that made them feel that I'm in a safe environment. Germany, that discipline is only in Germany.
But Italy had
Bike
internet bike lanes.
Yeah, Norway, Finland, Sweden, not that much traffic, so nothing to do.
No peace with it. Any other questions? So thank you guys. Thank you for sharing your experience. It's quite inspirational and great to live through your journey of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.